Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get us started because I don't want to take time away from Lee. Lee Notaro has been gracious enough to be with us today and lead the discussion on the new AP Pre-Calculus course. In case you don't know Lee, we've had the good fortune, those of us in the AP Stat world, of knowing Lee for years, thank goodness. She teaches elementary statistics. She teaches math for business and math for teaching at Moravian University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Lee's been an AP exam reader and table leader for many, many years, and she was on the AP Statistics Instructional Design team, where she helped to tag items for the AP Classroom Question Bank. In addition to leading AP statistics workshops, Lee leads in-person and virtual Desmos workshops with Amplify. And you can always reach Lee at her Twitter handle. So Lee, I'm going to turn it over to you. And once again, thank you for presenting for us and being here to answer our questions today about this new course from College Board.
Well, thank you for that introduction. And for those of you that are wondering, my Twitter handle, it's mathteacher24. So that's my Twitter handle. The items that I'm going to share with you today come from some slides that were shared with me at the AP Pre-Calculus Symposium for Higher Education. And so I'm going to possibly be sharing a little bit of unique perspective based on attending that symposium in terms of what happened with the course and exam description from AP Pre-Calculus as a result of that symposium. And I have a link to some resources at the end. So why is it that we need pre-calculus? Hold on, let's skip I skipped one slide ahead, sorry. We have a problem first before a solution. Here's the problem. Every year there's many students that have inadequate preparation for college level math. And I am not necessarily surprised by the statistic that the College Board puts forward, that 1/3 of college students spend time and money on remedial math courses that don't count towards their degrees because they lack sufficient math skills. I actually teach some of the lower level courses at my university, and we definitely have students that are repeating that course. And so there definitely is a problem. And so the College Board says, hey, the solution to this problem is to make sure we're offering pre-calculus. And in case you're wondering where the statistics come from, because as people who are into statistics, we wonder where they come from. I can get you the resource where this came from, the study where this came from. I just didn't copy that part of the College Board's presentation. They say that by taking pre-calculus in high school, this increases a student's likelihood of completing a bachelor's degree by 155%. So that's a good thing. But why did the College Board say, pre-calculus would be a good course to have? Of course, they want to help prepare a wider range of students to succeed in the math that they'll encounter in college. They also recognize that some students are going to go into STEM fields, but might not need calculus, but still require a strong math background. In my department meeting yesterday, I haven't had a chance to look at the link yet, but my department chair shared a link about Harvard creating a course for students that are going to go into STEM fields and don't necessarily need calculus. Like, think about them going into medical school. So not requiring students going into medical school to take calculus, but still needing that strong math background. It's also good to have this option for students who might not want to be taking calculus, or they want to have an advanced math class. And of course, consistency in pre-calculus would be good. So the College Board said, hey, we can help to develop a model that would bring some consistency to pre-calculus. The other thing the College Board recognized is that nearly 45% of students who took the AP calculus exam in 2022 scored a 1 or a 2. And so giving a course that would help with those 1s and 2s and help bring those scores up would be good, because many of those challenges that were faced by the students were pre-calculus concepts. This was another statistic that is from the College Board's website. Students who take math for all 4 years of high school are 140% more likely to be considered college ready and calculus ready. and hopefully to reduce the number of students that need to take remedial math classes. This was a slide that was shared during the AP Pre-Calculus Symposium for Higher Education, and I found this one to be very useful because it talks about female students, and taking a year of high school pre-calculus resulted in a 48% increase in the odds of choosing a science or a math major instead of a non-science or non-math major. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. As I said, that one actually has a resource on the bottom of the slide, but if you want some of the other statistics, I can dig those out when I have the time. So what's actually in pre-calculus? Well, if you take a look at several different pre-calculus texts, you can see the topics that are listed there for common pre-calculus books, Larson, Sullivan, and Stewart. The yellow highlighting is showing that that has a large emphasis in that particular textbook, and the green is the smaller amount of emphasis. So for Larson's book, polar is not as important, but Stewart feels it's more important. So a variety of topics. And so is there an agreement among college professors about what should be in pre-calculus? And apparently there was a study that was done to ask, what courses should be in, what should be in pre-calculus when students take pre-calculus. And so there was a variety of responses. Some feel that, pre-calculus really is just a second year of high school algebra with a brief intro to trig. Others think pre-calculus should be an accelerated track. So there's a lot of differences in opinion among college professors in terms of what is pre-calculus. And so when the College Board developed their course, they recognized that there was these competing curricular agendas. We obviously want students to be prepared for calculus if they're taking pre-calculus. We also want to make sure that this course is going to serve for students that are interested in a wide range of STEM majors and careers. Also, for some students, this might be their final math course that they ever take. And so we want a strong course for them to finish up their high school career. So in terms of trying to figure out this course and creating the course framework, the College Board asked college professors for their syllabi, and they also had several focus group sessions. I actually attended one of those focus group sessions where they would ask the professors, what do you feel should be in this course? What do you think is important for students to have in terms of knowledge and skills as they take their first math course, whether it's calculus or something else. And so they got the syllabi from different professors to help them develop the course framework. They said, if we're going to have this course, we need to make sure we have some summer institutes. Their goal was to have 150 colleges nationwide offer summer institutes. I actually went on the website where you can search by topic, and I found that there's currently 82 being offered for the summer. So they fell a little short of the 150. They also recognized, well, we need to have college professors involved in the course audit. So that had to be created. They also recognized that they needed to have college professors and expert teachers help to create the AP daily videos and the practice. So getting everything put together for AP Classroom. And then, of course, they needed to make sure they had college professors and other expert teachers on board for helping to create the exam, the rubrics, and scoring. I have been writing some batches of multiple choice questions for the AP exam. And we'll talk a little bit more about the AP Pre-Calc exam a little bit later on. So just like AP Statistics, there is a course framework that meshes together content and skills. So it's not just about the content, but also the skills. So we have our units, which there are actually 3 units, which is very different than AP Stat, which has 9 units. We'll talk about what those 3 units are in a moment. There's also the topics within the units, the learning objectives, and then what essential knowledge do the students need to have to meet those learning objectives. So here's one of the pages from the course and exam description for AP Pre-Calculus. This is on polynomial function and end behavior. So you'll see at the top there, it says topic 1.6. So this is from unit 1. I guess not learning objective 6, unit 1, topic 6. The learning objective is listed there. Describe the behaviors of polynomial functions. Well, that's a great learning objective, but what do the students need to actually know to be able to describe the end behaviors of polynomial functions? And they have the essential knowledge listed there as well. So initially at the AP Pre-Calculus Symposium that I went to, I think it was in November, the beginning of November, they shared their that they were going to have 4 units. And notice I said going to. They had these 4 units: polynomial and rational functions, exponential and logarithmic functions, trig and polar functions, and then functions involving parameters, vectors, and matrices. So parametric equations, vectors, and matrices. So basically anything that didn't fit in one of those first 3 topics kind of got put into the last topic. And one of the things that I feel like the College Board really listened to was the views of the professors, and there was also some high school educators there in terms of the course content and what really, really mattered. So if you take a look here, this is a very packed course. If you take a look at the timing of it, the 6 to 6.5 weeks for the first 2 units and the 7 to 7.5 weeks for the 3rd and 4th unit. And a lot of professors and a lot of high school educators that were there were really concerned about the fact that would they be able to get this done, in time for the AP exam. And so at one of the sessions that was led by Trevor Packer, he actually had us answer questions. Should we keep this topic or let it go? Polars, yes or no. Parametric, yes or no. Vectors, yes or no. Matrices, yes or no. And what ended up being decided was that this last unit was now optional. So that last unit is still part of the course and exam description, but it is not being tested on the actual AP exam. And so that actually, I think, made a lot of teachers there happier. Teachers felt like those particular topics the students could learn if they needed to in their college math, if they had a strong enough background in general. So I'm briefly going to show you the 3 units that were kept and the 4th unit as well. And I apologize if this looks a little bit blurry. This is a screenshot from the course and exam description. So here we can see polynomial and rational functions, and they're really focusing on this idea of function, inputs and outputs, and also getting the groundwork for calculus laid without formally doing a lot of work with limits. And this is the unit on exponential and logarithmic functions. So you can see that for a moment. The one that got brought up as something that maybe people thought wasn't necessary was the semi-log plots. So that was something that there was a little bit of debate over that at the AP Pre-Calculus Higher Education Symposium. And then here, this is all things trig. So trig and polar. And if you haven't seen the course and exam description, I do have a resource at the end, which has actually links to a couple of videos and some other resources. So you can take a look at that more in depth on your own. And then this is the unit that's optional and it's not included on the AP Pre-Calculus exam. At one point, Trevor Packer mentioned that they might have a separate exam that would focus, not a full exam, but a separate component of the exam that would focus on unit 4 that would be optional, so that if students wanted to report that score to a college or colleges saw that as important, they could have that. So that's not now. That might be down the road that they would have a separate section that you could take. I did mention that there is a focus on skills, and this is the same for the AP statistics as it is for AP calculus, the blending of the skills with the content. So here's an example of that. So factoring polynomials, right? That's the content, but it can be involved in several different areas within the course. And more generally, these are the actual pre-calculus skills that are embedded throughout the course. So it's not like skill 3C is only in unit 2 or skill 3B is only in unit 1. And the first practice that's listed there, procedural and symbolic fluency. These are, I would say, what you might consider your traditional algebraic skills, a lot of these. So writing equations and equivalent representations with and without technology, equivalent forms of functions, both within a given context, so applied context or mathematical context, and then the constructing new functions with transformations, compositions, inverses. Regressions was interesting. That was really interesting at the AP Pre-Calculus Symposium because there was this idea of, well, what are they going to do for regression? And so pretty much it's like, well, they're going to be using the calculator to create the regression, and then they're going to use the regression. And I was one of the AP Stat people in the room, along with some other AP Stat people, and we're like, well, how are they going to use this? How do we know if it's a valid model? And it was more of like, well, we just want them to use the calculator to do this. So hopefully they heard some concern related to using regressions blindly is not necessarily a good thing to do. And then practice 2, the multiple representations. So having students go back and forth between graphical, numerical, and verbal representations, and being able to construct those representations. So identifying and then constructing them. And then practice 3 is the communication and reasoning. So a lot of the questions for communication and reasoning are, okay, here's the result. What does it mean? Why? How do you know? That sort of thing. So what does the actual exam look like? 3 hours in length, just like other AP exams. The multiple choice will be split between a graphing calculator not permitted, 28 questions, and a graphing calculator required for 12 questions. And then their free response, there'll be 2 questions that are calculator required, graphing calculator required, and 2 that are graphing calculator not required. One thing that I find interesting about anything related to the graphing calculator required is sometimes, you know, you're allowed to use a graphing calculator, but might not be very helpful for answering the particular question. So what students might this help, and how might this work in terms of a high school trajectory for mathematics? Notice here we've got a year 5 and plus. That's assuming students started Algebra 1 in 8th grade, but of course some students might actually start Algebra 1 in 9th grade. Notice that they could still get to AP Pre-Calculus. And one thing that I found really fascinating too at the AP Pre-Calculus Symposium for higher education was the fact that they didn't necessarily want this to be a course. This is not a course designed for students that are going to be taking AP Calculus, right? Students that take AP Calculus don't necessarily need to take AP Pre-Calculus. They really wanted this to be a course that would be available for students that didn't necessarily get to AP Pre-Calculus. They wanted them to have the opportunity for college level math while still in high school. All right, and that bit.ly, I'm gonna see if I can copy that bit.ly. Hold on, let's see if I can copy it and put it in the chat. Maybe not. Oh, all right, that bit.ly takes you here. I'll grab the bit.ly and put it in the chat in a minute, but the bit.ly is gonna take you here, which has some resources that I've pulled from the College Board website. So information about the course and the course framework. The course framework is all the different learning objectives and essential knowledge. It's 85 pages long. And there's some flyers and brochures. The AP Pre-Calculus Math Pathways was that last slide I showed you. And then also the College Board put out 2 different videos led by Trevor Packer and I think Jason Van Billiard is leading the other one. They know about the course because they helped to, decide why it was needed, and they helped to develop it. So both of those are about an hour long and have about 2,000 people that have viewed them. But I would highly recommend, if you want to learn a little bit more about the course and what went into it and how it was developed, to watch those videos. And I'm going to see if I can grab that shortened link here. Let me stop this. There we go. I'll copy the link and I'll put it in the chat. So that will take you to this page of resources. So that's it for my presentation. I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have.
So I'll start out with a question. The first is just a joke question, but has this course been banned in Florida, or will we be able to see this AP course in Florida?
I was going to say, I don't think it's been banned in Florida. They haven't had a separate meeting about it like they did for some other AP courses, but yes.
Okay, no, that was just a.
I know that's a tongue-in-cheek joke. Yeah. Yeah.
So I know in the AP Stat community, there's been a lot of discussion about what impact they think this course might have on the AP Statistics course. What are your thoughts, and did that come up in the discussions? And
that really wasn't part of the discussion. Let me see. Let me show this. Oh, I don't want to do that. Yeah, there we go. You know, they have this laid out here where, you know, students maybe could take it instead of AP Statistics. That's a good question. Nobody really brought that up, if it's going to impact the numbers in AP Stat or not.
Yeah, because one of the issues has always been that in the advising at some schools with the push to calculus, you wonder if advisors are going to steer people to AP pre-calculus who might be better served by AP Statistics, just because of this idea that, you know, we need to get students to, you know, to ready for calculus.
Yeah, so I have a thought on that. So like at this point, I'm not all colleges offer pre-calculus as a course. Where I teach, we don't offer pre-calculus as a course. So right now we're trying to decide what to do with it. Do we not do anything and so say, no, we don't give credit for this, no matter what the score, because we don't have an equivalent course? Or do we say, well, you know, this will give you a non-math credit, you know, if you get a certain score? And so I think initially the numbers in AP Statistics might not go down, just because not all colleges have decided, you know, what they're going to do with it yet. And so if their student is looking for a course that might give them credit, right now I would say there's probably more. AP Statistics has a longer track record, you know, in terms of that. So maybe down the line, but I don't think initially. Yeah, and we might use it for placement. Yeah, Amy, we might use it for placement ourselves, because the one thing that I've mentioned is the placement test we use right now is the ALEKS. I think it's spelled ALEKS. And a lot of students don't do really well on it. And I think part of it is because they don't prepare for that placement test that they take. They just, you know, I got time today, I'll just take the placement test. Whereas their score on the AP pre-calculus exam should be representing a high level of knowledge and skills, because they've prepared for that, you know? And so I think the score on the AP pre-calculus exam might be more representative of what they know and can do than their score on a placement test that they, you know, take in a setting that's not necessarily a test setting. Was there any discussion on involving some data related topics? So the only one that is related to data is the one on regression. Let me see if I can find that. Find regressions, equations to model data. A model of a data set can be constructed using technology and regressions. So talking about exponential regression. They do have residuals here listed in topic 2.6, using residuals. But I don't think the students are going to necessarily do all the construction of residuals. It's not going to be as in-depth as working with residuals in AP Stat. So it's just kind of using here's a graph of the residuals. What does it mean in terms of the appropriateness of this particular model? and logarithmic regressions as well. Let's see. Amy also says, I think this course will feel more legitimate than to that student who does not really feel ready for calculus, but likes math. Yeah. So, based on which screen was it that I was showing here? It wasn't that one. It was this one. The fact that 45% of students who took the AP calculus exam scored a 1 and a 2. The fact that 45% scored a 1 or 2 means they're probably not quite ready for that course yet. Many of them. And so, I've been in schools where the students get pushed into math because they need to have that AP on their transcript. And, it better be AP calculus versus AP stat. I've taught in high school before this. We need to push them to get them into AP calculus. And, if they're pushed too hard and too fast, taking a full year's course over the summer, doesn't always go so well for the students. Their summer should be for exploration and enjoyment, in my opinion. But a lot of them get pushed too far and too fast. And then I think we see that for some of these students with scores of 1s and 2s. So, if there's students that would take AP pre-calculus as opposed to AP calculus, because now they've got an AP course listed on their transcript, and they're better served by that course, and that's definitely a better thing. So it'll be interesting to see if the percentages of 1s and 2s go down. I'm sure that the College Board is going to be interested in tracking that statistic. It'll also be interesting to see what percentage of students take AP pre-calculus and then AP calculus, and how those students do compared to students that don't take AP calculus, just a comparison of those. So I don't know as much about the course as these wonderful videos, so I highly recommend watching either the Introduction to AP Pre-Calculus video or Course Topics and Skills in AP Pre-Calculus, because both of those videos go into the entire creation of the course and why it was created, and the course and exam description in much more detail than I have.
So some new AP classes, they do a small pilot year, and then, is this coming year going to be a pilot year with just a few schools, or are they going kind of full blown?
Yeah, I did not hear about doing a pilot year. That was not mentioned at the AP Pre-Calculus Symposium. I know with some courses they do in the past, they have done a pilot year. I know they did a pilot actually with the AP African American History course. That was done actually as a pilot in some schools. I have not heard of schools that have done the pilot for this. So I don't know that for sure. I would hope they would have done something. But then again, they got rid of Unit 4. So even if they had done this course this year, they've gotten rid of Unit 4. So that it's already a different course.
Lee, I'm just curious if there was any discussion about if College Board expects states to automatically use this as their pre-calculus course. I mean, I know here in Georgia, we are implementing a new math curriculum this fall, and one of the courses is a pre-calculus course. And they've gone through and had specially designed materials developed for that pre-calculus course that is to be taught. And I'm thinking, well, now College Board is coming out with AP pre-calculus. Is that going to be a separate course from the pre-calculus course that we already have coming into place? Or does College Board expect that will replace pre-calculus courses that states currently have?
I didn't feel like there was an expectation. I think what the College Board is hoping to have happen is that more students will take a 4th year of math. More students will see this as something that will help them in college, especially if they hear that this course, taking a course, preferably AP pre-calculus, obviously, as opposed to pre-calculus, will help you to not have to retake that math course in your, freshman year of college. So is the College Board expecting this to replace pre-calculus in some places? Not expecting it, but could it happen? I think in some places it might. The one thing that was mentioned is they were hoping that by having a kind of course, this course and exam description in pre-calculus, it might force schools to think about, well, what would be in the courses before that? Because, and I know that's what's talked about in one of the videos, like what skills need to really be in place before that? What content should really be taught before that? And so it might force schools, at least that offer AP Pre-Calc, to really look at those other courses ahead of AP Pre-Calc.
Of course, students can always take a pre-calculus course anywhere and still take the AP exam without being in a course labeled as AP.
That's true. I was going to mention that. I know sometimes students will do that, especially if their school just might not offer it, for whatever reason, and they feel like they're prepared for the exam.
Do they have certain expectations, College Board, on people that can teach this course? Do they want them to go through a particular training, or is that as specific maybe as some of the other AP courses that they offer?
Yeah, I'm guessing that they're going to not require, but request that teachers, attend APSIs over the summer. As I mentioned, there's like right now 82 different APSIs in AP Pre-Calc. But my guess is many of the teachers that are going to end up teaching this course already taught either like honors pre-calc or pre-calc at their high school, since many of the topics that are there are already taught in courses that are offered at their school. That being said, they really need to make sure they look at the course and exam description and look at the resources in AP Classroom when that becomes available, to make sure that they're using those with their students and make sure they really know what's in the course.
And maybe a lot of the teaching will be done by people that teach the AP Calc.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
Yep. One thing I have not seen is any textbooks out there related to AP Pre-Calc, but I'm sure that those will be coming down the line. Attending a math conference, in the next weeks or so, people might see that the textbook publishers have already put together, the first chapter or two of a book, related to AP Pre-Calc.
I'm still not sure, and I saw the pathways thing. Is the goal is not that this is though a prep for AP AB, right?
Yeah, so I wish I found.
That's what the big debate in my math department at my building is.
Yeah, so
you feel like our honors does that already?
Yeah, right, and I feel like it does definitely do that already. Let me see. There was something that I saw that said that it's not expected that students take this course prior to taking AP Calculus. And now I can't find where that was. Aha, here we go. I found it. Yeah. I'll make this bigger. The bold there. This course is not a prerequisite for and does not have to be followed by AP Calculus AB or BC. So there's not an expectation that, look, if you really want your students to do well in AP Calculus, they need to take this course.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Is that the thing that you wanted to find?
Not the only one, but one of them.
I'll put this link in the chat. There you go. That's that page that I'm on right now.
I have a question. I don't get a sense that there is a coherent description of what kind of applications or connections to real world problems or something like that in here. This seems to me to be primarily a skills-based course. And I can see some students, many students maybe being interested or flourishing in that. But I can also see a whole bunch of students that are, unless I can connect this to something like real world problems and so on. Was there discussion about what kind of applications or what applications would be considered really important to weave into this course?
So when I was at the AP Pre-Calculus Symposium, they gave examples with different materials they were using. Like they had handouts of materials, but then of course those weren't for publication, so they collected them back. I will say that the multiple choice and the free response questions that I've seen do have applications. Like that it's not just questions devoid of context. Like a lot of questions have a context embedded there. So the other thing I will say, since I have spent most of my career teaching high school and now have taught college for the past 4 years, I was really interested in what the college people would say about the sample multiple choice and free response questions that were shared. Like, did they think they were easy? Did they think they were challenging? What did they think? And they said that they thought that they were pretty challenging questions. And I would agree with them that they were on the challenging side, but they still got at the important pre-calculus content as well. So I have a copy of the AP practice exam, but I can't share that with you, the AP pre-calculus exam, but I can't share that with you. But I'm sure that once a practice exam becomes available, they'll be posting it on AP Central. And if I see that, if as soon as I see it, I'll let Christine know, and then she can like let all of you know. The other thing I will say is I've seen like an AP pre-calc Facebook group pop up. So there are some teachers out there that are starting to share resources that way through social media as well. Did anyone at the symposium address the question of whether the College Board has now cast off the original meaning of AP? That is a good question, Michael. There are definitely some people that felt like, pre-calculus really shouldn't be considered a college course because we don't offer that course. Calc 1 is like our lowest level math course and that sort of thing. But I think even those people like the fact that there's a new course that hopefully will do a good job for preparing the students that they get for whatever math they're taking in the future. So nobody really said, this course is not really advanced placement. This isn't a college level course. But then again, if they don't think it's a college level course, they don't have to offer credit for it. And then Amy with the stat about AB performance 1 or 2, is there any data on the weight in terms of free response versus multiple choice questions? Are you talking, so you're talking about the 2022 exam and in terms of that particular information? There might be something related to that in the chief reader report that I didn't look at that specifically.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm in a calc reader, and I was just curious because as I go through free response questions, it just is so clear that there are procedural students, and then there are the students who understand how it connects to the ideas. And I was just curious with those 1 and 2 stats, because last year I did grade AB and it seemed really sad. And I attributed a lot of it to COVID, but yeah, I was just curious if we've gleaned any information as to identifying better where the weaknesses are.
Yeah, I don't know that specifically, but I think the AP pre-calc exam, once again, if the student's just doing, I'm good at skills without understanding the bigger picture, without understanding how it can connect into a context. They're going to be the same students that are going to get 1 and 2s on that. I'm going to put a link in the chat for the chief reader report.
Okay.
From
Thank
the 2022
Yeah.
pre-calc exam. And so, I mean, this is 31 pages, so there might be something in there related to that.
Thanks.
But you'd have to kind of read through that, but you can, see the comments about common misconceptions and knowledge gaps.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right, other questions?
Was there any discussion about trying to have projects in the AP pre-calculus course? I know that, many of the AP courses are trying to go to having more projects for the
Yeah.
students. Was there any discussion with this course?
So I think that there really wasn't a specific discussion related to that. However, now that they've taken away that unit 4, I feel like there's a little bit more time to actually have projects within that course. As opposed to, when they had all 4 units there and it was really tight with the timing. So do I think it could happen? Yes. Has the College Board thought about that? No, but are there teachers out there that are creative and will come up with some things? Of course.
May
I
I be
guess
controversial for a minute?
Yeah.
My background was always with IB, International Baccalaureate. And I found that to be such a strong assessment piece. They had short answers. They never had multiple choice. There was never given in the time I was teaching multiple choice tests. So short answers, essay type questions, but then it can 20 to 30% of the grade was based on a portfolio or a project that had to be submitted. From my experiences in courses like that, there was incredible student interest and development of that aspect of the assessment. Granted, it's a more expensive type of process to do that, but I've always felt that AP should be looking into things like that. So I support what Chris said, but also just wanted to reiterate the past experiences I've had where assessments included that.
There are a couple of AP courses that do have portfolios, but not many. The studio art ones, but also AP Computer Science Principles has a portfolio aspect to it. But yeah, I agree that it would be wonderful to have that as a bigger part of way more of the AP courses.
Yeah, of course, one thing that would be potentially a challenge too, in terms of scoring those, is now with Chat GPT out there, I had a colleague that I work with who teaches elementary statistics, put in a prompt, and it would be interesting. I haven't done this with an old AP free response question yet. It'd be fun to kind of throw in an old AP free response question and see what it would spew out and how it would score. But the response was pretty solid. Like, it was like, oh, if my student gave me that response, they're definitely getting a B, maybe an A even, based on that response. So that would, I think, potentially be a challenge to that.
I gave Chat GPT my most recent AP Stat test, and it scored 78.5, C+.
But that's this year. Next
Yeah.
year, it might do better.
It's learning, it'll get B next year.
And I have the most astonishing news for you. 6 of the points that it lost were actually because of bugs in the algebra engine. It actually came up with the correct equations and then solved them incorrectly. So as soon as they figure out how to paste into Wolfram Alpha and get the results back, they will have a good solid B.
Yeah, it definitely will improve, I'm sure, which will make things, potentially challenging for teachers as well. Trying to think of creative ways to use that tool.
Some of the answers that it came up with were almost wonderful, but then took a bizarre wrong turn at the end. So I think one thing I could do is give the students the Chat GPT output and say, critique this.
Yeah, well, you should get that now before they get that fixed.
Good point.
Yeah, I like that idea though, because it also lets students know that it's not always right. And plus trying to correct something that's incorrect is a really good learning thing. We used to give students as part of the their kind of senior exit exam, some stuff out of Excel help files on and ask them to actually fix, to fix all the mistakes that were in the Excel help files. But that was a while ago. But that finding and correcting mistakes is a good thing. But it, like I said, it might also send the message that, well, you got to be careful when you use it.
So I don't know if I see any other questions. I know some people are starting to leave. So, like I said, I don't have all the answers. I just shared with you some resources. Again, the link to, I gotta find that, the bit.ly that has the additional information with the links to the videos, the links to other AP resources. Let me just copy that and put it in the chat again. So if you have questions, go to that document and you'll find your answers, hopefully.
Well, Lee, this has been really, really helpful for us. I've learned a lot today, a lot to think about as well. It's going to be interesting to see how this course fits in as I see that more states are thinking about defining high school pathways in mathematics. So I think we have a lot to think about in terms of what the future of mathematics and statistics might look like at K through 12.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And if this causes some students to, slow down rather than trying to rushing, and, because, hey, I still can take an AP, course in my senior year, then I think that's a good thing.
Well, I think so too. I think that, as you say, the key is keeping the students in mathematics all 4 years of high school.
Definitely.
And, we shouldn't fret too much about what courses they're taking necessarily, but that we just keep them in the mathematical sciences those 4 years.
Yeah, definitely. I have students right now that I asked them, when did you take math last? And it was my sophomore year. And, because I took algebra 1 and algebra 2, we were block scheduled, algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry were block scheduled. I was done by my sophomore year. And so they haven't seen math in like 4 or 5 years. And it's tough for them.
Yeah, it's very tough. And block scheduling especially makes that very easy for students to stop their math courses early on in their high school career.
Yeah, not ideal, not a good thing, in my opinion.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, I guess it's time to go. And Lee, thank you again. This
You're
has been
welcome.
great.
It was good to put some ideas together and share some resources.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody next month, hopefully.
Yep. So long.
So long.